Hey guys, this is Rob Paulson, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are now on the inside of what I like to call the circle of trust. We are all connected in the great circle of life.
You know something, Bert? What? I think you and I are going in circles.
It feels like we're going in circles.
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Because it's a circle.
Yeah, we heard about the circle.
Yes, we're familiar with shapes.
Hi, this is Greg. This is Chuck.
And this is Dan, and we are Talking in Circles, the podcast brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network, the podcast that is full of master debaters. I say that because this week we will be doing a special debate episode where we're going to pick out different geek topics, whatever that it may be, and debate on the merits of each one. So it should be fun, some rapid-fire topics that we should get into later. Also this week, we have the very pleasure of being on Chuck Davis Studios. We've been at Greg Bethler Studios, we've been at Dan Clark Studios, and now we're at Chuck Davis Studios after we're coming to you live from from Chuck's kitchen table. So very professional here. We thank you, Chuck, for allowing us to come. We've been fed with some pizza and some great food. So thanks for having us.
You guys are always welcome. I know it's a very professional studio here. And
Yeah.
I have only the best sound equipment, which is what you brought.
Professional microphone. So hopefully, if it sounds a little bit differently, that's because we're doing it live from here. So,
and it's not Saturday night.
No, it is not. No, it is Friday afternoon. So not nearly as exciting as Saturday. Maybe, I don't know.
We did have an interesting ordeal with the pizza delivery guy.
We did. That was a good time.
So I called Domino's to get a couple of pizzas for us, and obviously had him deliver it and everything. So I gave him the address, and they'll be like, oh, it'd be like 40 minutes or so. They're kind of busy. Which I thought it was supposed to be 30 minutes or less anyway, but maybe that's somewhere else. I don't know. But I didn't. It's not like in the Ninja Turtle movie where I told him 122 and an eighth and he couldn't find it.
122 and an eighth.
You're
down here, dude.
You're standing on it, dude. But the guy calls me. The delivery guy calls me. He's like, "Hi, I have your pizza I'm delivering." He's like, "What's the best way to get to your house?" Like, you're the worst delivery guy ever. So I had to tell him, the better way to go on this one road and everything. And it was just funny. He's like, "Oh, I'll be there in like 10 minutes." So it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, we were joking that he was going to be like, well, why don't we meet someplace, like a central location? I know this great Pizza Hut place we can meet at, maybe that parking lot, and trying to, that's literally, you had one job. That's the definition of it. And it's like, I'll just see.
And then when he did drop the pizza off, Dan and I were joking that he's going to get back into his car and text Chuck back or call Chuck back and be like, so, yeah, what's the best way to get back to the...
So, how do you make your way back? How big's your oven? Because I have some pizzas I need to keep warm. So. But yeah, that was an ordeal. But Greg, how's things going with you?
Pretty good. Read a Batgirl graphic novel that was pretty good that I got on the cheap at one of our favorite comic book stores, Comics on the Green. I got it for like $8 or something. It was
nice.
A hardcover, volume 1, Batgirl.
Of the New 52?
I think so. I can't keep track of that.
Was it Barbara Gordon as Batgirl?
Yes, it was Barbara Gordon. It was Babs Gordon as Batgirl.
Actually, I've read a few issues of that recently too. So
yeah. Okay, cool. So you can also back me up on some of the stuff. The covers.
Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. The covers that they had for it were gorgeous. And of course they were, because they were done by Adam Hughes, who does some of the best artwork, especially of women characters that I think you see out there. It kind of somewhat borders coming on to realistic, but definitely very accented in some places.
Yeah, I mean,
catch my drift, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more.
Yeah, it's not like, what's that guy from, you saw him draw live at...
Frank Cho?
Yeah, he's not like that accented as Frank Cho.
No.
But it's certainly Yeah, but I think the faces wise, and like you said, a little bit more natural than your normal comic book cover.
And yeah, he does gorgeous work, and if I could ever get to him without it being $9 million for a piece of artwork from him, I would definitely get it. But the art inside was very well done too. Not much complaints about that. The story was pretty good. I didn't really care for the villains so much. I didn't care for Mirror. It just seemed like a different twist on the Punisher. And Babs Gordon was really good, trying to recover from getting the use of her legs back, which I didn't read. I'm not sure if there was a storyline anywhere for that.
That's from the Killer Joke.
Well, I know where she loses.
Oh, when she gets them back.
When she gets them back, though.
I don't know if it's in the 0 issue, because they did what they did with the New 52s. They had like 12 issues and then issue 0, which kind of went more into the origin. So I don't know if that's when it happened, but when they hit the New 52, I don't think there was I don't think how. I don't know if it was one of those miracles. It's the New 52, so everything is reset to wherever they want it to be.
Yeah, well, they kind of clue you in a little bit as to how that happens.
True.
With her dialogue with some of the other characters going on. But I guess I'll just say one of my favorite parts and then be done with this. I'm so fed up. My favorite part was when she actually has to save Bruce Wayne from this attack from this woman who kind of has like this mind control thing over men.
There are women that don't have that?
Yeah. But Batman kind of falls a little bit under its spell, I guess.
Yeah.
He kind of recovers. He kind of knows what he's doing, but he's kind of playing it up because there are witnesses and he doesn't want to pull off any moves that's going to make him look like a professional fighter that he is as Batman.
Yeah.
But as soon as he recovers from that, Barbara Gordon saves him, quote unquote. Bruce is like, oh, thank you, and gives her a giant hug. And when they're close together, giving the hug where nobody could hear him, he kind of whispers to her that he's always thought of her as Batgirl and she's the only one that can be Batgirl. Something to that effect, which I thought was really great because Barbara Gordon was really doubting whether anybody wanted her to be Batgirl or even if she should be Batgirl to begin with. So that was kind of an uptick in her emotional... It kind of killed a little bit of her baggage that she was holding on to. She dropped some of that.
Yeah, I didn't get that far into it. I think I'm only in like 3 issues or 4. The last issue I read was with Nightwing. That the little crossover there, but
where they're having a little battle back and forth. That was really well done too, I thought.
Because I did like how they had it where they played it up like she was unsure of herself and she was still kind of dealing with baggage from being injured and whatnot. So it made it a little bit more interesting because she was that kind of a.
Plus, everybody's worried that she's going to re-injure herself and everything, and those parts were the most interesting parts. I didn't really care about the villains too much. It was more about her emotional core and what she was going through that made the story really good, other than the villains or anything like that. Yeah,
up so far when I've read it, like there hasn't really been a main villain yet. So, but.
Yeah,
it's really like you said, more so her that makes it interesting. So
yeah,
which is interesting because usually Batman it's the opposite because Batman himself is usually it's the villains that help out a lot. But
does she end up like hurting her back again, or is she okay? Or...
she does a couple of things where you think she's gonna mess it up, but she's fine.
Her back is more fragile than Tony Romo.
It's funny because she doesn't fight in December, so just like Tony Romo. But no, that's kind of not necessarily on the same lines, but I also had the opportunity to watch a movie that is very female-centric as well, and that's, of course, the latest Hunger Games film, which has been out for quite a while once this podcast goes out.
Jennifer Lawrence.
That's funny you make that noise, because when we were at Baltimore Comic-Con, I was in one of the panels, and people are talking. It was kind of quiet, and then someone's ringtone was that, and it was like super loud, and everyone just started laughing. But yeah, so Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, because titles have to be like forever long now. Each one has to be its own sentence. But it's kind of the new trend they're doing where they're making the last book into 2 movies. Started with Harry Potter, which I thought was actually worked well, because the second last Harry Potter movie is actually probably my favorite, and with the last one being maybe my second favorite. So That to me made sense. Twilight didn't make sense because it didn't have a story to begin with, so why prolong it?
I'm silently nodding.
And then now with Hunger Games, I've never read the books, but from what the first book, from the first part one, it does seem like it's a situation where it does not need to be 2 movies. Because that's the biggest downfall to this, is there are elements that remain the same, but what's kind of interesting is that the main crux of this is kind of a propaganda war between the rebels and the Capitol, and how one's using the character of PETA, and how they're using the Mockingjay, Katniss as their propaganda piece, and then going back and forth.
And then I'm using PETA Pockets as
they are delicious. So, but the issue is like a lot of it rests on the shoulders of the relationship between Katniss and PETA, which I thought has never been a really strong element of that series.
Does she go to Panera a lot?
She might. She's more of a soup and salad girl.
I never thought about having a relationship with food.
I have a very intense relationship with food, especially chicken wings.
Yeah, that's true. I do too.
Start getting separation anxiety. It's pretty bad. It's just a movie that it's really prolonged, and there are a lot of scenes that play out way too long, and it feels like they're just stretching for time, where there's long sections of literally them just waiting for things to happen.
Are there nice shots of Jennifer Lawrence though when this happens? Because that might be worth it for me.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you might be able to get better shots in better locations. You might be better off watching the movie from last year, American Hustle. Yes, you might be better off there. But it's okay. It's the biggest issue is like it's that relationship that's the crux of it, and honestly, not that much that happens for a good 2-hour span. So I was kind of disappointed because I did like the other films, but this one is just feels like it's literally just a huge lead into the last movie, and it kind of leaves you in a weird spot. So it's and I think the biggest issue too is with the Hunger Games films. They have not been really good at establishing the world as a whole. I feel like how it all functions and why this even all happens. This is all about how that functions, and with it out being like not really understanding the effect that this is having, it doesn't really work as well. They do some better things. Like there's a really cool scene where you see them this organization or this one district that's clearly the district that loves flannel and loves covering and is
Seattle.
It is this Seattle the district, but no, they clearly are like. They cut down trees and they're for the lumber.
It sounds like Seattle, Dan.
It might be. I don't know. I did not see any coffee shops, so I can't tell. But
were they throwing fish?
No. I didn't see the Seattle Seahawks either, so the 12th man did not represent. But
Richard Sherman was calling people mediocre.
The best in the world.
These Hunger Games are mediocre at best.
But yeah, there's a rebellious scene where they run up the trees, and it was interesting just how it all worked. I'm not really doing it justice, but overall I don't know. If you're a huge Hunger Games fan, I could see you're liking it, but as someone who has a passing interest, this one was probably somewhat of a disappointment.
That's kind of where I'm at too, like a passing interest, and I agree with you saying like they didn't really do a good job world building, because I walked out of both of the first 2 movies saying like, what the hell is this world? Like, what is happening? Like, everyone's poor. There's this lady walking around in a purple dress with giant hair. Like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah, because my wife who's read the books, I think she's kind of filled me in a lot for things that they clearly are not portraying in the movies at all. And I think the entire book series is done in first-person perspective. So then trying to expand it through a movie sometimes can be difficult. So maybe that's the issue. But yeah, I don't know. Wait to DVD, I guess. Or
where does it rank so far in the Hunger Games movies?
I would say last. I like the second one the most, then the first one, and then this one. So it was an interesting idea. I like the idea of trying to examine how propaganda is used in war on either side. I mean, that's kind of intriguing thing to do for like a blockbuster film, but it just wasn't really all that effective when your major crux of that is this relationship between Katniss and PETA, which has never been. It's always been kind of a fake story, they're not supposed so trying to make it into this like, oh, now they actually love each other. It's just like they never have any chemistry. I don't really care about them. So
it's like they're trying to create a love triangle just for the sake of doing it or something.
It's like, oh, she really loves him, but it's like I never really established that before now. So now you're saying, oh, she really did, but it never really seemed like that beforehand. So.
Yeah, it was more of they used the relationship as a tool than an actual loving thing.
Yeah, so when then trying to now use it. I mean, I think they would have been better off just saying, because it's the idea that they left him behind, so she feels guilty, and I could understand that, but it just gets to the point where it's not nearly as effective. So
now, was Philip Seymour Hoffman in this one at all?
Yeah, he was actually one of the best parts of the entire thing, because
Really?
he plays like the guy who's trying to like organize all the propaganda and kind of like creating commercials. He's like a director in the movie, and it was kind of cool. Like he was a lot of fun. He was probably the best part of the entire movie. But yeah, and so was Julianne Moore, who plays like the president of the rebels, which was she was kind of funny in the not being funny on purpose, because her character is very dry and very like monotoned. So she was interesting because she was like giving speeches, but it was so blunt and no personality whatsoever. So like he came in to try to add some spice to it and make it a little bit more rap rousing.
Put explosions behind her.
Exactly. He Michael baited up is what I'm saying.
Were there any parts where it looked like it just didn't mesh right with Philip Seymour Hoffman, like with him passing while they were filming it? Like, did anything seem weird, or did it pretty seamless?
Not with him, but you know what does seem weird? I don't know if you saw the trailer for the new Night in Museum movie.
Yeah.
Seeing Robin Williams in that, like he just looks weird. Like he looks sickly in it. I don't know. They don't show him much in that trailer, but in this, no, it didn't seem. He looked really happy and really kind of more energetic than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So I saw the movie A Most Wanted Man that he's in. That to me is a little bit more problematic, as you can tell in that he's more of a broken guy, kind of. Plus, he has a German accent, which is kind of weird. So. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get into some different debates of geek topics, so we'll see you in a bit.
Every week on the In Session Film Podcast, you can expect to hear reviews on all of the latest movies, big films, small films, and everything in between. We'll also do top 3 segments relating back to our main review. We discuss all of the latest movie news and rumblings, as well as have movie series and other fun segments. And we always talk about the films that we're watching and why you should watch them or not watch them as well. If you want to learn more about the In Session Film Podcast, check us out online at InSessionFilm.com. You can hear our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, and so much more. In fact, you can listen to everything we have straight from our website. Again, that is InSessionFilm.com. Download our podcast, check us out, and come join us every week. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, I'm Gary.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chuck.
And I'm Justin.
Join the 4 of us every week on the internet's #1 and longest-running G.I. Joe podcast, What's on Joe Mind?
It's Joe news, reviews, and interviews like you've never heard them before, delivered right to your MP3 player.
Our guests include Jason Marsden, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Matt Yang King from G.I. Joe Renegades, Larry Hama, Robert Atkins, and John Barber from IDW Publishing, and many more from around the online Joe community.
Yeah, it's guys talking about Joe. Think of it as Joe Talk meets sports talk. And we make fun of Chuck.
Right, and we... Hey, again?
Come on, Chuck. We're just kidding. Kinda.
Sometimes Chuck makes fun of himself.
Right, and we... Okay, seriously, this is just getting ridiculous now.
It's What's on Joe Mind, every week on the Geekcast Radio Network, InsidePulse.com, Stitcher Smart Radio, and iTunes. Download and listen today.
I suppose I still can't say something about Transformers, can I?
Come
Good.
on,
No.
What about sports?
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right, and welcome back. And what we're going to be doing today is more of a rapid-fire idea here. We're going to be spitting out different statements, not like fact or fiction, but more debatable topics per se, and we'll be giving our ideas on each one, to seeing where we agree, disagree, and it's going to kind of run the gamut of different ideas and different questions, really, that kind of cover that of geek culture. So one thing I'm going to think we'll start with here is one that's kind of personal to a lot of us, because we talk about different collectibles, and Greg, you mentioned, you're doing the Loot Crate stuff, and we have Hero Clicks we've mentioned a few times, Marvel Legends, and this I know is
Pop Finals.
Pop Finals. It's been a while since we talked about Pop Finals, so we gotta get that in there. One of the biggest debates when it comes to collecting things is, well, do you keep it in the package, letting it increase in value, or do you open it and display it? So I'll let you guys start with this, because I think you guys have much more impressive collections of collectibles than I do. So, Chuck, let's start with you here. How do you feel about collecting things? Do you keep them wrapped up in their packages, or do you open them and allow people to see them and play with them and touch them in all the right places?
Wait, what are we talking about? No, I think it depends a lot on what you collect. I collect a lot of things, but my my primary collectible is the Marvel Legends, and I think it's much better if you open them and enjoy them because they're made to be a posable statue. That's exactly what they are. They have a very high detailed sculpt, and they're meant to be posed in different things and photographed and shared on Facebook with listeners. And I have a really hard time keeping my stuff in the package. Like, I have to open it. I know, like, back in the day, I think you found me, like, the original Red Skull Marvel Legend.
Yeah.
And that was, like, one of the really rare ones, and that's, like, worth a lot of money and stuff. But I'm like, this just looks too cool. I'm like, I gotta open it. I think I had it in package for, like, 3 or 4 days, and I just kept looking at it, and I'm like, I gotta open it.
Nice.
But, yeah, it's tough. I think it's meant to be enjoyed. I like to have them out and displayed, and you know, I don't know if I'm gonna be even alive next week to resell them and make money on them, so I want to enjoy them now while I have them.
Are you also scared of ISIS attacking you like Scott Stapp is?
Yes. They've hacked my bank account.
Oh man, Scott Stapp. How?
What if? What if ISIS attacked?
All this time. But Greg, how do you feel?
I'm kind of OCD, and I would like to keep them in the packaging, but it gets to the point where I'm like, it's not as fun in the packaging, and with the pop vinyls, which I've mostly been collecting lately. The great thing about those is that you can really get into those without messing up the packaging. And you could get out the figure and display it that way and just store the boxes somewhere else, and you could easily reassemble that back together, and no one would be the wiser. Now if somebody wants to buy one of those later in life, when I'm like, I need money, I've got to sell stuff, everybody's going to be like, well, on this podcast, you said that you have them opened. And then I'm going to be screwed, and they're going to be like, okay, I'll give it to you for $5.
Well, that was different pop vinyls. These are the ones I didn't know.
Yes. Some of them I haven't opened. I got a Stan Lee San Diego Comic-Con exclusive one, and that one I did not open, and I also have a...
That's because you're a true believer.
I am. And also I just got a Harley Quinn one that was exclusive for Previews magazine. If you go to the comic book store, they have these big, thick... catalogs of stuff you can buy or get from have your dealer, not drug dealer, comic dealer buy for you.
Those type of dealers keep it in the package too.
And Harley Quinn is also in the package, and she's also glow in the dark.
Naturally, or is it?
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have the Hero Clicks, which are ones that you can't literally have in the package because you don't know what's in order to get to the Hero Click, you have to open it up, so it's kind of not fair. But I'm the same way. I mean, I don't begrudge those who don't open them, but I think it depends on what you're going for. Like, if it's for yourself, then why keep them packaged? But if you're just doing it as, I know people kind of do it as like almost like a second job, picking them up, selling them, and whatnot, which is, that's another way to go. But like you said, it's to the point where it's seeing a bunch of cardboard boxes full of stuff. Because it's like, oh yeah, I never touched them and they never were opened, but I don't know. But you can be like the 40-year-old virgin who had them from that movie, who had like all these things not opened, and he made like $100,000.
He was financially set for the rest of his life after selling them.
Steve Austin's boss? Why do you have Steve Austin's boss? It's worth more money.
Yeah, and Greg brought up a good point, because like with the old Marvel Legends, with the bubble packaging or whatever, you basically had to cut them open with a knife or scissors.
Yeah, those I hate those kind of packages. Yeah.
And now they too have gone to the box style, kind of like the pop vinyls, where you can open up the side, slide it out, and reclose it.
Yeah, but you have to be very careful with it. Like, I have like a method to opening the pop vinyls at this point, where I take something very thin, put it in underneath the lid, bring it back slowly, and then that brings out that little tiny flap down at the side.
You have the big light thing on your head, like the doctors back in the old days.
Yes, I got an operation.
Big magnifying glass.
I've got a giant mask on my face.
In a clean room with like
someone handing you tools, you're like, scalpel, clamps.
Oh, we think we lost this one.
Damn it, I boxed one of the edges.
Clear.
glue, stat, give me glue.
But yeah. But I guess that's then you feel jealous of those people who they find other toys that aren't open and sell them for lots of money. But
Also, the downfall of opening them up is you kind of double the space for all your junk and stuff. Yeah. Like, still living at home with my parents. I'm trying to move out. Yes, I'm trying. But like, I have a small, tiny room. I'm running out of room for boxes. Yeah. Like, they're everywhere.
That's kind of why my big thing was collecting movies, which I don't do nearly as much as I used to. And for those of you, the sad part is there's a lot of movies I bought that I still haven't opened yet. Not because I'm trying to collect them. It just hasn't opened.
How you doing, Kevin Smith?
No. But yeah, so I think we're all in agreement. Keep, if you're doing it for yourself, like you should, open them, seriously. But kind of on a different side, another random topic, and going back to the Avengers trailer, they had that really interesting scene where all the different Avengers are trying to lift Thor's hammer, which is kind of fun and kind of interesting debate. So kind of inspired by that, what characters out there do you feel would be worthy to lift Thor's hammer? I mean, I know we talked about Captain America because that's definitely one who's done it in the past, but any other characters you feel that haven't or outside of Marvel that would be worthy to do so in lifting of the hammer of Thor?
Ooh, that's a good question. I know there's a few that come to mind. I know, like in Marvel, I may say somebody like the Silver Surfer.
Actually, that was on my list too, because he did sacrifice himself for the betterment of his people. He's gone against Galactus to save Earth. So there's certain qualities you could see there that were similar to that of Thor.
I'm sure there's been issues where they dealt with that. There's none that I came across personally, but there's got to be some out there with like him trying to pick up Thor's hammer or something. But if not, they should definitely explore that because that would be cool.
I guess the counter argument to that would be that he was Galactus' the Herald for a while, so he did help in with him committing genocide, and probably on occasion. So maybe that would be the one key factor of him not doing it. But I think you can make a case can be made for Silver Surfer.
I think let's see, maybe somebody like, well, I guess not the newer version. I would have said that before all the recent stuff happened, but I could say maybe Cyclops. But since he kind of went on the evil binge thing.
Yeah, he's off on a different path at this point. I don't think he would be accepted in because he's kind of got like a new brotherhood type of thing going on, which is weird.
Yeah, I mean, back in the 90s, he was pretty much a Boy Scout. Like he, always did the right thing and everything. Great leader.
Yeah, actually, kind of though. I just started reading the new X-Men. Was it Uncanny? Well, that entire run after Avengers versus X-Men or X-Men versus Avengers, and I actually really like that path they're putting him on because it is kind of interesting. It does seem out of character, so I'm curious if it's going to be like, oh, he's a Skrull the entire time, which is
Well, it is written by Bendis.
It is written by Bendis, yeah. Oh yeah, so you never know, but. I do like that idea. One character that kind of came to my mind outside of Marvel in general, but you think about someone who's a great leader, has great ethics, is a great warrior, kind of has that type of mentality, and is a leader of a team, and someone who's kind of very respectful of those that are his elders, and that someone would be like Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I don't know if he would be. I don't know how that would go, but I could see him possibly living. There was a frog that did lift the hammer, so why not a turtle, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. Or
I do. I think he would be good with his ninja mentality, ninja beliefs. I guess you would say. I think he would be honor code. Yeah. It's a great sense of honor. So I think with that, you could also fit in a whole bunch of different characters like Iron Fist or what's his name? Chang. I don't usually.
The guy who's not Bruce Lee, but basically is Bruce Lee.
In the Marvel universe. Yeah, which he comes in every once in a while.
He was in the when the Avengers the new Avengers started after, not the new Avengers cartoon, but a new Avengers comic. After Avengers vs. X-Men.
They bring him in like every decade.
Shi-Chang or something?
Shi-Chang, yeah. So,
but I'm surprised none of you guys have mentioned another outside source that you both love and would love me to love, and everybody else would love me to love, and that
Squirrel
would be
Girl?
Yes. Actually, I think she could lift it up. But I was talking about Superman.
I did want to mention him. I thought that was an obvious choice, but I was going to bring him up at some point. But I think there might have been a crossover too with the whole JLA Avengers thing in the 90s, where I think Superman picked up Thor's hammer.
Yeah, I
and just started sucking on it. It was weird.
Oh.
He likes lightning. Yeah, I agree. I think he would say, because he is kind of the same type of mentality as Captain America, so he would fall on the same lines as that of Thor. So I could see why he would be worthy, because he doesn't kill, and he kind of has that ethic code that he follows. So maybe not the Superman from Man of Steel, but
I think another interesting one would be kind of Marvel's version of Superman, which is Gladiator. And the reason that would be interesting is because like his strength is kind of with respect to his confidence.
Yeah.
At a lot of times. So it would be interesting, like whether if he doubts that he can lift it up, he probably wouldn't be able to. But maybe if he thought he could, and he thought he was noble enough and didn't doubt himself or any of his past actions or anything, then maybe he could pick it up. That would be a little interesting thing to it.
Yeah.
Did you see, there's been theories inside the comics about Thor's hammer and why people can't lift it up? Like maybe there's something to do with gravity, like certain particles that will increase the gravity of it depending upon the person. So it's not necessarily magic, but the idea that not metachlorians per se with the Force, but something along those lines that's kind of plays into it. Or I don't remember what comic it was, or someone's like, what else could it be? And I'm like, well, maybe just magic. So it could just be magic.
Or he could be like the Red Hulk and not have to lift the hammer, but lift up Thor with the hammer, swing him around to propel you into outer space.
Yeah, there's a whole comic too where the Hulk was lifting it up, and it's like, why is Hulk lifting it up? But it was really just Thor bringing the hammer back to him, so it made you think he was lifting up the hammer finally.
Okay.
But it was actually just Thor kind of summoning it back to him. So they played a little bit trick there. So
what about a couple other DC characters? What do you think about the Flash? Do you think he's a noble enough person to lift it?
My worry is that he when you think about it, that character did go back in time, completely changing everything just to save his mom, which kind of shows that maybe there is a selfishness there, that he would risk the entire universe just for a personal goal. So
Thor was pretty selfish in a lot of his early stuff too, though.
Yeah, that's true. I think certainly, I don't know, my knowledge of Flash is not great. I just started reading the Flash comic after New 52, only one or two issues in, but I could see the argument per se. I don't know, Greg, what do you think?
I seriously don't know that much about Flash. In the DC world, I only read Bat-related titles for the most part.
What about Bat Flash?
I know there's Bat Lash, but I'm not sure about Bat Flash.
No. Another's Bat Wing, which actually I liked reading. I read that. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. It was like the African Batman.
Oh, okay.
It was like Black Panther meets Batman.
Oh, interesting.
Nice. I think somebody maybe like Martian Manhunter too.
Yeah.
Might be able to. He's very much the same type of personality and honor code system as some of the other ones that we mentioned.
How about Mr. Miracle?
I'm not aware of him.
He's like the ultimate escape artist. He's has a relationship with Big Barda and everything. And
okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Huh. I don't.
He's his arch nemesis is Granny Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. Yeah, because he's kind of
he's just trying to escape. He has a good moral compass. He does a lot of things for the good of others, and
if you can pull off some miracles, then maybe he could lift it. I don't know.
And he kind of switched Big Barda over from the dark side, and he got married to her or whatever, and they're a couple, and so she does good deeds now. So if he was able to turn over a baddie to a goodie,
I'll tell you what, if he could make the name Barda into an attractive name, that would be a miracle.
Hey, that was...
She is very attractive, especially the way some of the comic book artists portray her.
Yeah, that... Well, what? Yeah, definitely. Greg made an motion, so you can just put that in your heads. What about kind of thinking outside of the realm of comics, though? In spirit of the recent Star Wars news, thinking of Star Wars characters, what about Luke Skywalker?
Well, any of the Jedi really that aren't turned into the dark side, I think.
Yeah, Yoda or
Yoda,
Obi-Wan.
No,
definitely think that Mace Windu, but he'd have a purple Mjolnir. Yeah. Cannot say that word.
Mjolnir.
Just think of mule and then near. Like there's a mule close to you. It's Mjolnir.
Nice. That's a good way to go. But anybody else? I think we're tapped out.
I definitely think when you guys joked about Squirrel Girl, I think she would actually make it pretty decent because she beats the crap out of a lot of people that you wouldn't think she could, and she's got a good moral compass. She's she took care of Cage's little boy, and
Nicolas Cage.
No.
Whoa,
named after Luke Cage, yes, who I am talking about.
We all know Nicolas Cage would be worthy to lift Thor's hammer.
That's high praise.
But, yeah.
I just found this national treasure.
There's a map on the back of Thor's hammer. Historical treasure. But kind of a random question. What about like Galactus? Just considering that he'd be able to, how would that work? Is he just overpowering of the hammer that he could just lift it up?
He'd have to take it from my cold dead hands.
Oh man,
that would be interesting.
I don't know. That's a good question.
So I would assume he's more powerful than Odin. So maybe, I guess. I don't know. Someone write that, and we could figure that out.
Yeah,
he would just try and eat it.
Yeah, he would.
He'd be on the ground just licking it.
Or it'd be like trying to pick up those like little things on the ground, like pickup sticks, but really tiny. You wouldn't be able to like grab it.
He would have to let his fingernails grow out so that he could get it under the.
You had to get one of those like leaning over sticks to try to pick it up. So, but yeah, very cool. So let's kind of switch gears here again for.
Yeah, we could debate that all day. I think we need to get off that topic.
Yeah.
I would just use the Nicolas Cage voice.
Kind of. So we're in comics. So let's stay there with comics because this is always an interesting idea when it comes to comics and character deaths. And with comic book, like last year we had the huge character death with Wolverine dying, and pretty much
what?
I know.
What?
I know Wolverine died.
I thought he wasn't supposed to die.
I know, it's crazy.
He's supposed to heal from anything.
So when it comes to character deaths, I know with comics, people die and come back. Are we in favor of that? Or do we rather it be that if a character dies, then that's it, they're not coming back ever again?
Yeah, I'd like to get Wolverine back, so can we hold it off until at least... if we're going to do that rule, could we bring Wolverine back first, please?
Well, maybe we're setting the entire universe, so I'm assuming he'd be coming back.
But yeah, I think it would be... They'd have to bring the characters back at some point, because then it would just be like a whole new list of characters that they're going to have to come up with that nobody really has any feelings behind, or it's going to have to develop quickly. It's just going to be like having to start from the beginning, which may be fine for like anybody out of the top two in comics, out of Marvel and DC, but like it's Marvel and DC's bread and butter, so I think it's... I can see I don't like all the dyings and then coming back after just like a couple weeks or whatever, but like they need to do something to establish a little bit more credibility with death to give it a little bit more impact.
Yeah, I think it is kind of true. Like you said, you have two sides to it. Like you kill a character, don't bring him back. Well, then you have to come with a character to replace that character. Sometimes that's easier said than done. But I think sometimes they've proven they could do that. Like when Captain America died after Civil War, like I hated how they killed him, but I thought making Bucky Captain America, they kind of did replace him. So
Yeah, that was totally cool because you had an established character from back in the day who was out of it for a long, long time to come back to replace.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting way to do that and an acceptable way to do that. But then they brought Cap back not that much later.
And it's kind of ironic because technically the person that brought him back from the dead was also brought back from the dead after many years of being killed. So I think I read there's something in some article saying about how Superman in the 90s, when it came to death, he kind of made death not matter anymore because he came back and like was one of the biggest things. So I do wish characters could die, but I do think there is, like you said, it's tough because then people also want characters back. So it's challenging. So Chuck, I'm curious to hear what you think.
I think it matters a lot with how you do it. If you look at some of the ways that characters have died over the years, like iconic characters. Like the first one that comes to my mind is Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And that whole story was like huge because, he died of cancer from being exposed to the negabands or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, they made this whole big deal of it. And the entire, all the major heroes in Marvel were like at his bedside when he passed away and everything. And
they were singing Kumbaya.
They were.
And it just affected everyone on such a deep emotional level because that was a hero that everyone looked up to, sort of like a Captain America.
Yeah.
So I think something like that, you can't really turn back from and bring him back because he made such a huge deal out of it, how it struck everyone. But it is tough. I know they did try to bring him back during Civil War, and it was some sort of clone thing.
They brought him back during Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion.
Where it actually ended up being just a scroll, but it made it seem like it wasn't because he was not infected, but possessed with the same power. So he actually thought he was Captain Marvel for a while. It made you think he really was, but it ended up not being. It ended up just being a scroll.
Yeah. Like the guy from Terminator Salvation that thought he was a human.
Yeah. Sam Worthington, who I still question, is he actually really a human? So.
But yeah, and then, look at Uncle Ben. They had never brought him back.
Yeah. They never brought Uncle Ben. Bucky was only 1, 2, and Barry. That was the ones they said. It was Bucky, Ben, Uncle Ben, and Barry Allen were the ones that were killed and never brought back, and 2 of those have come back in one shape or the other. So,
the Flash one that's another one, kind of like the Captain Marvel one. They made a huge deal out of that because, Barry Allen sacrificed himself to save all of reality or the whole universe or whatever in the Infinite Crisis storyline. So that's another one that it took a long time for him to come back, which is good, I think. Captain America came back pretty quickly. Some of the Thanos has been killed a couple of times and come back pretty quickly.
And I was going to say Jean Grey, but Jean Grey's been killed and hasn't come back in, I know, over 10 years or so. So
yeah, that's true.
But they have brought her back in a different form by bringing back her younger self.
True.
In the new X-Men, I think it is. Or,
all new X-Men.
All new X-Men.
Yeah.
The 50 billion X-Men titles that they have going on by Michael Bryan Bendis.
Yeah, that's true. So
Michael Bryan, we're saying his name backwards now. Fuck him. He didn't deserve his name to be said the right way. No.
I figure every other podcast is praising his name, and all the different authors of different comics praise his name, and Joe Quesada is just down in his crotch 24/7.
Well, someone has to be, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, going back to Greg's point with the problem then becoming trying to replace that character. I know DC explored a different way of trying to do that. When they killed off Supergirl, they started bringing in Supergirls from other realities, other universes, and then you kind of get Power Girl and another
you get Power Girl.
You get another version of Kara-El, and it just gets then it gets really complex and convoluted and annoying and stuff.
It's she's from the future. They did that with Nightcrawler because they didn't bring after Nightcrawler died. They brought Nightcrawler back from Age of Apocalypse into the Marvel. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, and he was kind of a prick a little bit.
Yeah,
but now they have him back proper.
of course, because that's the way to do it. But because I mean, some other ones like Ben Reilly, he was killed, like the clone of Batman, the clone of clone of Batman.
That's worse than my Brian Michael Bendis screw up.
The clone of Spider-Man. So there have been some people that have died and not come back, but yeah,
Gwen Stacy.
yeah, Gwen Stacy. That was one of the, you talked about like how they did it. Like that's why bringing back Cap was kind of such a surprising move, because that was such a huge deal. Like they had that whole Fallen Sun line where each character showed how they were impacted by it, and it was done. I think it showed you just how important Captain America was. So then to bring him back, it's like, and this is the way they did it. He was like kid shot with a time gun or something. It was so ridiculous. It's just like, why would you? I mean, it's like which is not Brian Michael Bendis, but Ed Brubaker. But I've wondered too if like that was, he didn't want to bring him back, and I don't know.
Maybe he might have been strong-armed into kind of doing that.
Because it wasn't long after that until they announced the Captain America movie coming out, so it's kind of like, oh, okay, well now they have to.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, when you make that big of a deal out of it and it's done that well, like your death of Captain Stacy, the death of Gwen Stacy, like stories with deep emotional ties, like at the very least they should leave the character dead for 10 or 20 years just to make it stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like then maybe when you do bring them back, it's a whole new generation of readers, so they're kind of like disconnected from the original emotional story, so you have a new generation of readers to kind of explore new stories with. So.
Well, what happens when they go through and revamp the entire universe? Can they just they could just bring the characters back from the start of that? I assume.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, I would say so. So technically, you're starting a new
universe for the most part, because they seem to do that quite often anymore too. So it's not like they lose them for that long, depending on where they place the death.
Because you have, New 52 with DC, and they're doing something new, and then Marvel's, there's a big indication that they're resetting their universe. Plus, they have the Ultimate Universe too. So it's just like, all right, which makes sometimes those small independent or like isolated stories so much nice to read, because it's like, oh, this is all I need to focus on. Nothing else.
It's a nice refresher. It's like they give you that little piece of like lemon sherbet or whatever between meals to cleanse your palate.
And then like looking at something like Walking Dead, it's so much easier to kill a character in that and bring someone new in. Like in Walking Dead, because the characters said they're dead. Like they never, from all the comics I've read, they've never brought a character back from dead.
Walking Dead?
Well, technically zombies. Yeah,
zombies. Did they come? But do you see characters as zombies? Because I haven't read or watched that far in.
Well, you do see some characters turn into zombies, definitely.
Okay.
But like, it's not like that zombie gains like sentient powers and suddenly is like a normal human being. but yeah, so.
They had a strange blood type that wasn't affected by the virus. So
they
turned back.
That was all a dream or something. The closest thing they've got to is like when someone got bit and then they chopped their arm off, and then that saved them. But
yeah, they cut off their blood, the poison of a zombie bite, staving it off from the rest of the body.
I guess and there was one time with a comic book character and early on where you were led to believe he died, but a character died, but then you never actually saw it, and then you went back and see, no, he did actually live through it, because he was kind of swarmed by zombies, so you're like, oh, he's probably dead, but you didn't actually see it happen, and then you went back, and like all the zombies were killed. It was Tyrese in the comic book, but they kind of did that in the movie, in the TV show too. Spoiler alert! I just pulled a Greg there.
I like to do the spoiler alert after I'm done.
Yeah. Think of a different word for alert. Spoiler notification. You've just been spoiled. But
like my milk, you have just been spoiled.
Staying on, kind of going into comics, but also kind of movies, and
I'm gonna let Chuck handle this one first because I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We can pause it.
No, that's cool. Keep going.
Okay. Well, going into.
Let's follow Greg into the bathroom and see what he has to say.
This is live, so. That's that's a spot all podcasts should never go. But yeah, kind of staying in the same lanes of comics, but kind of comics combined with movies or TV shows, and that's comic book adaptations or adaptations as a whole. I know there's a lot of talk when it comes to adapting something and staying true and not changing anything or changing things to fit whatever you're doing. So, Chuck, when you see something's being made and it's being adapted into comic books or TV or movies and it's based on something you love, how do you feel about changing different elements of it? Are you okay with it, or what are your overall thoughts?
I'm definitely okay with changing things related to the story. What I don't care for is when they change the character at its core. If they make a really fundamental change to the character, something that makes them not who they are from the comics, then I would have a real problem with it. When they make changes to plot or setting or something like that, and it's that really didn't take place on this planet, that happened here, and it was supposed to happen before this. That stuff I really don't care about. I feel you can change that to whatever you need to kind of mold your movie and the story that you're telling, but as long as you stay true to the characters at their core, and if you nail those, like we've seen with Chris Evans with Captain America, some other ones like
Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.,
Charles Xavier, maybe Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, stuff like that. When you really nail the character, that's really the only solid foundation I'm looking for the most part.
What about in situations where you think maybe they make the character better? One that comes to mind is Blade in the comic books compared to the movie. They completely changed that character, because if you look at what he was in the comics, he was nothing like Wesley Snipes, but then after the movie they kind of molded him into what he was in the movie. Are you okay when they do that, when you maybe take a character no one really cares that much about and then do whatever they want with him?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. If you're taking a B or C list character, if you will, and trying to make them better, it's harder when you have such a well established character like Superman, Captain America, Wolverine, Professor Xavier, stuff those are so set in stone because they're everyone's favorite characters. It's hard to change those, but someone like Blade, I think it was a great idea what they did in those movies and changed him and made him better.
So can you think of situations in which there are characters that were changed that you felt they were changed fundamentally and you ended up not liking what they did?
Yeah, I would. The first one that probably comes to mind would be Dr. Doom from the Fantastic Four movies.
That's a good place to start. Yeah.
I know Stan Lee said that he really liked that guy, and his name escapes me right now, but Stan Lee said he really liked that guy as Dr. Doom, but I just didn't see it. I didn't see him deliver like I thought he would as a believable Dr. Doom.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought he looked the part, though. Not the suit of armor itself, but the guy himself kind of looked like a Victor Von Doom kind of situation. I'm not sure personality-wise if he pulled that off.
And maybe it just stands out because of the great contrast with how Michael Chiklis nailed the Thing.
Yeah.
I thought he did an awesome job as the Thing. He totally nailed that character. And maybe next to that, maybe that's why Dr. Doom doesn't look so good there. But
plus, it wasn't really written that well, and he just doesn't they changed a lot. He was nothing there's nothing really even resembling the comic book in any way. Plus, he was just kind of really awful. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, what about the rumors about this next Dr. Doom?
Yeah, well, that's he's a blogger or something like that?
Yeah, it sounds horrible, whatever it is.
There's a lot. That's actually, I wanted to bring that up, the new Fantastic Four movie that they're coming up with, because there's a lot of talk of that one. And I don't know if you saw in the recent, when this is being released or being recorded, there was a recent preview of a recent issue of Punisher, the comic book, in which he basically murders the cast of the new Fantastic Four movie.
What number is this? I need to get it.
I think 11 or 12 or something like that. It just shows them waiting and kind of blows them up. But because there's been so much like that, I hear a lot of people complaining about that because just the cast is super young. Miles Teller's doing the Mr. Fantastic, and he's younger than we are. He's in his mid-20s, and Kate Mara, who's she's really young too, and that was a huge thing. So that is fundamentally changing it. So I the whole Dr. Doom thing, like you talked about, Greg, I don't know. Could it be worse? I don't know if it could be worse. I don't even know who the actor was who they're getting to play it. So
a bigger one that should have came to my mind first, though, before Doctor Doom. This is the really obvious one. That's Juggernaut from X-Men 3.
Oh, man.
Talk about murdering a character. Just like...
He's not a mutant.
See, even like the mutant part was kind of dumb, but I kind of could understand that aspect of it. But just he looked ridiculous, and he looked like a bad James Bond villain from like a 1970s, like Roger Moore era. Like, it just did not go well.
Actually, he was a mutant, and then he's supposed to not be a mutant in the comic books. Sorry, I got that confused, right?
Yeah, he's not a mutant in the comic books. He's powered by the that gem, right?
The ruby gem of Shidorak.
Thank you.
Yay, words.
But yeah, so Greg, we didn't get your thoughts on this. So when it comes to adapting a comic book or movie, or taking something like original property, making it to something else, how do you feel about changing things? Are you okay with it as long as it's good, or do you feel like it?
As long as it's well done. Like right now, I'm holding a Hellboy Hero Clicks, and I thought Ron Perlman did a great job as Hellboy, and I just dropped it right there if you heard it. I thought that was a great adaptation. They definitely had to change things to make it work for movie, and if it works out well, I think it's great to change things. I thought Watchmen was a really great movie. I thought it was a really good comic book, and I was glad that they cut out that Black Pirate stuff out of the movie, because I did not enjoy that when I was reading the comic itself.
In what they actually ended up doing, I don't know if you saw, but they have the ultimate director's cut of Watchmen, because they made a cartoon of the pirate stuff, and then what they did is like intercut it within the actual movie itself. So there is a version of Watchmen with that in it. Yeah. But another big change with the Watchmen too is they didn't have the squid monster, whatever.
Which I kind of like the squid monster take at the ending of the comic better than the movie, but I still thought the movie was really good, and still kind of fulfilled what the comic was trying to do. So I don't mind it if it's done well, but like the Doctor Doom Fantastic Four, like you guys were talking about, that turned out really terrible, and I think the next one's going to be bad as well. I think that Sony, or who has that, Fox should just let that relapse and let X-Men, or let Marvel take it.
Speaking of Fox, what about the adaptation of Deadpool and Wolverine Origins?
That was awful. That makes me feel bad.
I'm just bringing up all the good ones here.
that was a lot of that was literally the idea of Deadpool being a pool of different characters, which not in itself not that bad, but then once you put his mouth and make him into, take away everything that's good about him.
The Merc with the mouth, and they literally had his mouth sewn together so he couldn't talk.
Everything away from that character, everything that was good, everything that everybody enjoyed about the character, they took away.
Yeah, I mean, personally, when it comes to change, I'm fine. Like, kind of well established. Like, I don't change whatever you want. Honestly, I know a lot of people aren't looking forward to the Fantastic Four thing, and I'm skeptical, but I like the director. I like some of the cast, so maybe it could be good. I'm more worried that it's Fox, and they've shown that they don't know what they're doing. They keep changing things, but I guess I'm not as worried as a lot of people. But some of the ideas do seem sketchy. But I'm all for, like, when it comes to something, I don't care what you change, as long as it's good. It ends up being good, because I think personally, if you're going to hire someone like a Josh Whedon or J.J. Abrams, that give them freedom to do what they want. Don't try to pigeonhole them, but I understand, like, if you're going to make Superman into something that people think he isn't fundamentally, like, or like his, make his dad into, like, okay with him, like, not being a hero and, like, letting people die, and why that would be, why people would take that to heart. But I personally don't mind it. It's not a determining factor of the quality to me, but as long as you can justify it, and as long as it ends up making it better, or if it makes sense within what you're doing, like thinking of Sam Raimi when he made, he didn't have the spider shooters, or, it just came out of his skin. And some people got upset, like, he doesn't have the spider shooters. And I think, it makes sense in that movie to have the organic spider webs. It's a lot cleaner, at least, and you're asking a lot already from people, so it's not a big deal. And now with the Amazing series, they went back to the spider shooters, or am I saying that right? Web shooters. But yeah, so I'm fine with stuff like that, as long as I feel like there's a reasoning for it, not just because yeah, let's see how this goes, or it's made by someone who clearly has never read or watched anything that it's coming from. So, one thing I did want to ask you guys, because we've talked about digital comics a lot, and I know you guys are against it. So what I'm doing right now, I'm pulling out an iPad, and then we're in person, and I want to see.
What's that, Dan?
I know. I want to see if this changes your mind at all. So here's an iPad.
Ooh, Terry Dodson.
So what I'm doing, I'm going to let them look through it and see, does this change your mind at all reading comics? Because I got to say, it's pretty awesome reading a comic this way. How do you feel looking at it through the actual digital comic? Does it make you feel dirty? What do you think?
I normally feel dirty.
I don't know. I mean, it's cool and all, but it's sort of an immediate turnoff for me. I don't know why.
I just like having it there in my hands and having some. I like the collectability of it as well, along with being able to read stories.
I feel like this is not mine. Like,
yeah. Well, it's not yours.
What about now? It's mine now. I'm holding it. No.
Chuck just stole the iPad away from Dan.
But it took a little bit for me to get used to, but like looking at, let me pull up. So right now you can see like I have all these different comics here. These are just some of them, and I have them loaded onto my computer, so I can just basically synchronize them and bring them on here. So, and I have Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man right now. I can pull it up, and
is it cheaper this way?
Well, this is through the this technically is, but the issue is like I can't get like if I'm gonna buy, say a comic comes out today, I want to buy the digital comic or I want to buy the physical form. They're the same price.
Okay.
New. If I want to say. Use Marvel's service where like their online digital service that's kind of like Netflix for digital comics. Mm-hmm. It's cheaper because it's kind of like Netflix where I can just pull up whatever. So you can zoom in and like zoom out or go like this and see 2 pages. So
I should add like I wouldn't be against reading it that way.
Yeah.
But I would say that if I turned out to really like the story, I would want a hard copy for myself as well. Just to say I own it, I have it, I could pick it up whenever I want. Don't have to worry about my battery dying or power going out or something. And
the nice part though is like because I like to read when I go to sleep. So like my wife's sleeping, I can just have that. And I don't have to I don't have a light near my bed, so I can use that instead. But
yeah, I do like the brightness and how it brings out the color. Especially this is Humberto Ramos that I have up right now, and I think Edgar Delgado does the colors, and that gives a nice feel to it. I do like looking at images on computer screens and stuff because that's what I'm used to at work. So I like that aspect. But my main thing against it is I can't collect it. Like Chuck said, I don't feel like that's mine.
Yeah, well, again, not your.
You don't want your iPad, Dan. Give it to us now.
No,
the reading aspect of it is great. I would enjoy reading it on that, but the collectability aspect of the hobby, I think it sort of takes that away from me, at least.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. Just because, which is why I kind of like what they're doing now, where you buy the physical form and you can get the digital form along with it, because that way. You don't want to ruin your physical form, so you can kind of keep that in, collect it, so you kind of have both.
Keep that a 9.8.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, like I said, like we mentioned, if I want to get, I love this issue, I love this cover, I want to get it signed, I can't because it's an iPad.
You sign my iPad, please.
Your screen's all signatures all over it.
Can't read anything, but it is great. It's a great reading tool, but like you said, if you're into it for the collecting angle, like if you're gonna get maybe like a trade where trades aren't necessarily worth anything, or but even still, it does feel like after I read it, I delete it from my computer or from my queue, and it's like, well, I can't go back to that, or
let people can't go back to your favorite parts.
It is a space saver, I'll give you that.
Yeah, it is kind of nice.
And my other issue with it is like out of sight, out of mind. Like you're not going to see it, so because I did have some digital comics that Marvel was giving away free digital comics.
Yeah,
like the firsts, and so I got a whole bunch of those. I think I read like a third of the ones that I downloaded.
Yeah.
I just never read the rest of them because I forgot it was there. Like there was other stuff going on, and then I had the physical ones, which I read all the physical ones that I've gotten, which is probably about 5 times more than what I had in the digital comics that I read.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, as someone like I came up to Scranton for Thanksgiving when we're recording this, and instead of bringing like 4 or 5 graphic novels, I could just bring the iPad and bring it with me in my computer. So that for traveling purposes, it's nice. But like you said, there's kind of the downside of if you don't own it and you can't let people borrow it. But my wife loves it because then I don't have another white box full of comics that go along with it.
I've been thinking of doing e-readers recently, which I'm not sure if I should really do, but I've been thinking about that, especially with Amazon has a Kindle for like $50. So I was thinking about maybe doing that and saving a few bucks instead of buying a whole bunch of books, and at least calming that part of my collection down, because I feel like I'm becoming a hoarder at this point.
Well, one thing I did, honestly, for the book angle, I ended up going to the library, honestly.
Libraries scare me, Dan.
Well,
wait, what's a library?
it's called like your video library. It's like what you have in your own now. But like my wife has a Kindle and she uses that for reading, and I prefer books. Like I'm not the Kindles. I don't know. Like it's so tough because I don't feel like I'm reading a book completely. Like I don't have an idea of how far I am, because with a book you have the physical of like how long
you have the thickness of the book, and you can see how far along you are, and that kind of goads you along, because you're kind of like, it's like playing a video game. Like you could see that you're progressing and that you're getting farther along in the story.
What's kind of cool though is like with some of the Kindles though, like if you are like now they have it, if you have a character name and you click on the character name, it'll give you information, like kind of like highlights of stuff that you may have forgotten. It's like reading for dummies, so it's like I forgot all about that, from kind of giving you more insight to things you may have missed.
Well, that's a lot better for doing book reports in school.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish we had that when we were in school.
Yeah. I know, it's like the next step of Cliff Notes.
Yeah, pretty much. Or Spark Notes.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely agree. And there will be more. We'll probably do this again with different topics and different ideas. So, but before this episode runs too long, we like to end each episode with a letter. And I have a different letter here. This is actually based on an article I read. An article I wrote for Geekcast Radio, actually when I first started way back when in the year of 2012, back when internet was steam powered and craziness, and
Greg and Chuck didn't exist.
Yeah, they were still just, they didn't have a podcast, which is weird because who doesn't have a podcast these days? But when this is released, we're getting near the awards nomination series for movies and TVs, and you'll see a lot of top 10 lists coming out. And then the repercussions of that is you have a lot of people then yelling about things being overrated, being too highly rated, and getting awards when they don't deserve it or accolades when they don't deserve it. So this is an article kind of written in response to the idea of something being considered overrated. Unless it's like Brian Michael Bendis, and then we all agree that is, in fact, the case. In today's world, we have more vehicles than ever before to allow us to export our opinions to the masses. With a simple click of a button, we can inform our friends, family, and people around the world of our viewpoint on the news of the day, the weather, who we hate now, and of course, movies. Sometimes we assign our names to these opinions, but more often than not, we are simply anonymous usernames that take on a new life of their own. I don't need to tell you that with this power has come less responsibility. Opinions have become more vile than ever, and statements that would once be reserved to the etchings of bathroom stalls are now bellowed in the world of Twitter, Facebook, and of course, blogs. People tend to have a sense of pride in accomplishment, knowing that their words can cause a stir, and relish the idea of igniting a classic message board war of words. You no longer need to yell fire in a crowded theater to garner attention. Instead, you can virtually shout words like epic fail, socialist, and of course, the ever-present word, overrated. Think of a movie, book, TV show, restaurant, color, shoelace, appleseed, or thought. There is a message board somewhere where someone screaming it is overrated. We have gained a sense of ownership to the world. Our statements can now be seen on the same page as a New York Times article, page 12 of 23 of the comment section at least. We're not speaking our opinions but facts, and truths that everyone else fails to see. Sure, the vast majority of the world may think Citizen Kane is one of the greatest influential films of all time, but I think it's too long, boring, and lacks vibrant color, so it's overrated. I'm not a lemming mindlessly following the person who came before. I am an individual who was granted a unique gift of unyielding insight to determine a product's true quality. While others give opinions, I provide the world with my one true evaluation that will live on forever for generations to come. This may sound like an overstatement, but in most cases, I've undersold it. I have no issues with people providing their opinion on anything. If I did, I wouldn't write my own blogs or have my own podcast. My issue is when we lose grasp of the meaning of the word opinion. Pick any film, you can see some sort of flaw. What may be a flaw to some can be a point of attraction for another. I enjoy listening, reading, and writing reviews of films. There's something about providing analytical evidence to come to a conclusion of a movie's quality that stirs my curiosity. Some do it better than others, and the best reviews are not necessarily the ones I agree with. Listening to someone who disagrees with you can give you better hold of your own opinion, though it's hard at times, I'll admit. However, when that opinion is limited to a single statement, no one gains anything except frustration. There's no debate, just an enraged argument, because it is impossible to argue with the term overrated. For one, it requires you to know the true rating of a film. What is a film's true rating? Is it the Rotten Tomatoes score, IMDb rating, where it falls in the AFI top 100 of films, how many Oscars has it won, or some random Excel spreadsheet rating system you created on a late-night binge of Red Bull Mountain Dew and Sunny D, and whatever you found in your mom's medicine cabinet that night? If a film was critically and financially successful, won awards, and garnered the attention of the world, but not liked by clever username USA, can it be considered overrated? It's good, but it's not as good as people say it is. It can be used to describe anything, at any time. That's all you need to close the case of the trial of the overrated. When it comes down to it, it is the ultimate showing of lazy arrogance. With one word, we can disprove the misgivings of the entire world, and propel our opinion to the high heavens for all others to worship, though I've heard heaven is overrated as well. Instead of limiting ourselves to the bumper sticker statements, let's challenge ourselves to be better. While debating the quality of film won't make the world a better place, the inability to do even that will be frustrating for everyone. If we can start with movies, perhaps we can move to more important topics, though I doubt at times we could even agree on what the more important topics would be. And I'll get off my soapbox, and sincerely, Dan from Talking in Circles. So yeah, I wrote that a few years ago, and I kind of still think it's prevalent. I'm always never a fan of the term overrated, but I do like the term underrated, so I don't know what that means, but...
Very nicely said.
Yeah, those are rather lot longer than I realized when I started it. I'm not going to lie. So, but all right. Anything else before we bring this episode to a close?
No, I think I got nothing.
All right. So there's a lot of ways to get in contact with us. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com or talkingincircles@live.com. We're on Twitter and on Facebook. Just search Talking in Circles. Greg, you're on Twitter. What is your Twitter name?
I am at the Create Forge.
I am at Movie Revolt. And Chuck is on... No, he's still not on Twitter.
I am at the kitchen table.
We are at the kitchen table, yeah. But yeah, so that'll be it for this week. We'll be back next week. Same time, same channel, same podcast feed. But for now...
This has been Chuck.
This has been Greg, or the Lost of Domino's guy. Where am I, guys?
And this has been Dan, eating delicious Domino's pizza. And we've been Talking in Circles. We'll see you next week. And phone ring for Domino's guy. No, nothing. would have been perfect.
I feel like that would have been a good prank call thing on one of those videos.
Yeah, I like to order...
If I was more of a jerk, I could have really screwed with the guy. Like, really? You're calling me, asking me how to get to my house, and you're the delivery guy.
Get on the turnpike, go south, get off, turn around. It's going to sound weird. Then go north, and then it's like,